Nobody cares but me.
Well, that's you, Marlowe. You'll never learn. You're a born loser.
Yeah, I even lost my cat. Boom, then I shoot you right between the eyes into the river.
This is
Welcome to the
when
Mind Your Movies podcast.
this is when a true editor would add a gunshot sound there.
Yes,
Jump scare. Uh, Welcome to the Mind Your Movies podcast. I'm Ryan,
I'm Shane.
and today we're talking Robert Altman. We're talking about two of
Yeah,
his movies, The Long Goodbye and MASH. So naturally, we've called this episode The Long Good Mash.
yes. And those are the movies we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about them in depth. Spoilers, spoiler warning. We already kind of spoiled one of them, so sorry about that if anyone just clicked on the video a little bit, but that's okay. Uh, uh, so yeah, spoiler warning for those movies. Yeah, and I think that's all we have to do to set it up. Before we get into the main meat of the episode, we're going to talk about a couple things we've seen recently. No spoilers for this segment. But Ryan, did you want to start us off with something you've seen recently?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with a banger. Um, this is a new movie that just came out. It's on now. We're recording this, and it's on its wide release, which is nice. Which is The Life of Chuck. This was my most anticipated movie of the year. If y'all go back to our anticipated summer movie thing from not too long ago, and this is written and directed by Mike Flanagan, but it's based on a short story by Stephen King. It has a great ensemble cast. It's a really kind of strange telling of a guy's life that starts at the end and it has three parts. So it starts at like the end of his life, and then it jumps to the middle of his life, and then the beginning. So it's kind of told in reverse chronology, and it is incredibly like emotional and impactful. It's a Stephen King story, but it's really not a horror story, and it's kind of ethereal at times. And the first act where you're starting at like the end of his life is like maybe some of my favorite cinema of the year.
Nice.
Yeah, it's amazing. I strongly recommend if you guys see this before it's out of theaters. Unfortunately, I think it's still a kind of limited release, even though it's the wider part of that release. Strongly recommend seeing it if you can in theaters on the big screen. And if you don't get to, try to like get it and watch it soon. It's great. It's very welcoming and heart touching and emotional and aesthetic and the sound is very important. So if you can get to the theaters, I recommend it.
Nice. Hell yeah. I sadly did not get out to see that. But I watched something at home. I watched Killer of Killers, the new animated Predator movie on Hulu. Directed by Dan Trachtenberg, same guy who did Prey, which is maybe I'd say probably the best Predator movie in the whole series. I would say it's even better than the original, to be honest. Even though I do like the original, but this animated movie is pretty awesome. It's very violent, very graphic, very R-rated for an animated thing. The animation style is a little weird. It's kind of a 3D animation, kind of looks like a video game, maybe like late PS3, early PS4 era video game. So the animation's not the strongest part of the movie, but honestly, every other part of the movie is really good. So basically, we follow three different times in history where humans have encountered predators, and the first one is a Viking warrior. Uh, the second one is a samurai in like about the year 1600. And then the third one is a World War II pilot, an American uh, pilot. So it's pretty awesome seeing these three different time periods. The samurai one is really awesome. That was my favorite segment. There's almost no dialogue in the entire thing, and it's just awesome action and really great storytelling. And then in the end, the three storylines sort of come together in a certain way. I don't want to spoil things or anything, but it's not just a pure anthology of three separate stories. They kind of tie it all together a certain way at the end. And I think this does have like an impact on the Predator cinematic universe. So I would definitely say this is worth watching. There's the new Predator live action movie coming out, I think in November. So anyone who's looking forward to that, I would recommend watching Killer of Killers first. Also, it's only like 85 minutes or something like that. And it's like action packed. It's very fast moving. So it's like just a really fun watch. Really, the animation was the only thing that I didn't love, but everything else was really cool.
Nice. That sounds awesome. That's on my list, definitely to watch. So,
Nice.
and that's a nice
It's totally
one.
worth it.
Yeah, and it's a nice one because it's at home. You don't have to worry about going to the theaters, so that's nice.
Yep. Yeah, it's an easy watch.
Um, well, I watched another movie that's going to take a total shift from the life of Chuck because this movie is definitely a horror movie. This is the Lars von Trier movie from 2018 called The House That Jack Built. It's in like the top 250 horror on Letterbox, which is why I went to go see it. Well, watched it at home. I did not go anywhere to see this.
Well,
This
you
is
went to a streaming service, I assume.
right.
You
Yeah, this
digitally went somewhere. You surfed the web.
yes, this is not a movie I think I'd want to go to a theater to see. Have you seen this one, Shane?
I have not. I haven't seen that many Von Trier movies. I've only seen a few of them, and this is one that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah,
Is it on Tubi?
it is, I
Is
think.
that where you
Yeah.
watched it? Because I think I've seen it on Tubi, and I just haven't wanted to watch it just with the ads and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah.
I watched it on Shutter. But
Oh,
I
nice.
think it is on Tubi, and I do think the ads in this could be hit or miss because it's kind of episodic. So if they're like placed at the right times, that'd be nice.
Hmm.
But man, that tone would be weird if you go from this movie to like, and that's gonna be, Pledge Ultra Clean or whatever. It's
Yeah.
a strange vibe.
A
But
Ozempic commercial.
but the movie is pretty crazy. It's uh
He's a
like
serial killer, right? We follow a serial killer.
yeah, and there's like this whole descent idea that's going on in it that's really interesting, and it's like kind of narrated, and at the end you actually like get to the whole narration piece, right? But it's kind of narrating the episodes and then you get to the ending, and it's pretty interesting. It's pretty like legitimately scary, I would say. It's very creepy, very unsettling. The what's his name, the main actor here, hold on, I got you, Matt Dillon, um does a fantastic job being maybe the creepiest serial killer actor, maybe at least that I've seen in a long time. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't go as far as like,
Nice.
you know, Hannibal or anything like that, but very creepy, very, very well done.
Nice.
Uh Also though, again, not really the movie to like, not a date movie. In case anyone's thinking of
No,
watching a Von Trier
I don't.
movie as a
Yeah, I
date,
don't think
right?
any Lars von Trier movie is a good date movie.
Yeah.
I would recommend Antichrist for a date. Ryan, you should sit down with your girlfriend and throw on Antichrist and see how long it takes for her to turn it off.
Yeah.
But it would
Well,
probably be about less than 5 minutes, to be honest.
I don't doubt it.
That's one of the few of his movies that I've seen, but this one was good, basically, is what you're
This
saying.
one was good. Although there's a like, I really enjoyed this one, and I think there's some people out there that don't like this one because they find it a little pompous, maybe, in some of the theming. But I think it's worth watching, and I think I don't know, just uh like enjoy it as the horror, even if not maybe the metaphor that he may or may not be implying. So
Hmm. Gotcha.
that makes
Nice.
that makes very little sense right now. But if anyone's seen it, maybe it makes more sense, and
Hey,
whatever.
I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, but that's fine. Um, I have kind of a cool little short film to recommend. It's a sort of a skate documentary. It's 25 minutes long. It's about Andy Anderson, and he's a Canadian skateboarder. And it's basically just following him, just like a day in his life. He lives in a van in Canada and he travels around, and it's like him skating around. I think it's his hometown, uh, in Canada, and it's pretty awesome. It's kind of a really nice uh like exploration of this like really unique character. He's kind of this like almost Zen. He reminds me of Rodney Mullen a lot in that he's this sort of like skateboarder philosopher kind of a guy who's like uh kind of, I don't know, all about the philosophy behind like skateboarding and what he does and the creativity behind it and like the humanity of it and like he's just an interesting guy. And yeah, the movie kind of it celebrates that and the creativity involved in these tricks. And it's not just a straight up like skate video of like, oh, here's a sick trick and we'll put some music on in the background. It is kind of more of a short documentary, and mixed with a skate video. So I definitely highly recommend this, to be honest, if that sounds interesting to anyone. If anyone's like, I don't give a fuck about skateboarding, maybe they wouldn't like it. I don't know. But I think he's just an interesting like character, just even if you don't know anything about skateboarding. But it's on YouTube. It's called, I don't even think I said the title. It's called Seen Him. So if you type in Andy Anderson, Seen Him, it would pop up on YouTube. And it's only like 25 minutes long. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I would highly recommend it for anyone who likes documentaries or is just curious about things. I think it's kind of just a window into an interesting person, I think. So yeah.
Nice. Cool. That's nice. Also, again, always nice with the I like that we usually end up throwing in some short films here, on one side or the other. There's usually a short film thrown in, which is
Hmm.
nice. It's nice to be able to just sit down for 25 minutes and watch something that's pretty solid. So,
Yeah.
um, well, I will throw in here that leading into our Robert Altman episode, I hadn't seen much Robert Altman. I think MASH, and I really hadn't consciously seen MASH, right? It's been a long time and I was a kid, right? But um, so when we were going over like what to watch for him in our last episode, in our last full episode, I was looking at a bunch of his stuff and got pretty interested in some of it. So I ended up watching The Player from 1992 and Images from 1972 to see kind of uh, two different aspects of his filmmaking, one really early and one much later. And The Player is uh, kind of a kind of a thriller satire thing of Hollywood, and it's I really enjoyed it. It was interesting. It was kind of, I think, well paced, and it was kind of still a fun thriller while also kind of poking a lot of fun at Hollywood and the process of filmmaking and all that stuff. So that was interesting. And then Images was actually his only horror movie, and so I naturally had to watch it. Um, it's very like there's a lot of doppelganger stuff in it, and it's mostly about this woman's like descent into maybe mental health crises. And there's like these times when like people literally are kind of like changing who they are in between a scene. It's fascinating how she like how it plays with the idea of her reality bending and altering. Um, and so I really enjoyed both of these. So I was really excited. I watched these before going into our two that we picked for this episode. So I was particularly excited going into our episode here with a little bit more background than I had before. I mean, he has such a wide filmography, so it's hard to pick a couple
Yeah.
to watch, but
I mean,
I,
yeah, from I think from 70 to 75, he directed like 7 or 8 movies. So
crazy.
yeah, uh very prolific. But yeah, Images is really cool. It's almost like a European style, like surreal, psychological horror kind of a thing, almost like Roman Polanski type thing, like Repulsion or something, or Performance, and like Nicholas Rogue movies and stuff like that. It was very or actually, Don't Look Now, I think came out the year after Images, but that was sort of that era. And he's just, I don't know, it shows sort of like his versatility, I think, as a director, that it's like he does like MASH, uh McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Images, The Long Goodbye, Nashville. These are all like such different movies that I don't know. If you didn't know they were directed by the same guy, you might not notice. But then well, if you know that and you watch them, you can kind of see some of his trademark things. The naturalism in the acting, um, some of the way he the way things are shot uh can be similar through a lot of his movies, a lot of long takes, a lot of wide shots and stuff like that. Also,
Yeah.
your camera froze. Okay, you're back. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
You're
Well,
back. Forget it. Forget it. We're good. It's I was just gonna keep talking, but then I was like, if the power is cut out, then we might be
uh,
fucked a little bit here. But I think
nope.
we're
I was
good.
actually just staring at you intently.
Okay, that is extremely creepy. That's like something out of Images. There you
Yeah,
go. But yeah, Images. All right. In retrospect, that's the one you should have picked.
I agree. We'll get into that.
Because Images is like right down your alley. You're the horror guy, and this is his only horror movie. And
Yeah.
it's also a lot kinder to women probably than MASH.
Yeah, and also like just interesting. There's a lot of like metaphorical uh actually a lot of the like metaphorical stuff in the movie kind of reminded me of something like Rosemary's Baby, which is a
Yeah,
really fantastic you talked about Polanski earlier. Really fantastic movie that uh explores like a lot of the same theming and kind of underlying uh stresses that this movie tries to get to, right? The anxieties that this horror is trying to depict, which I think is just like my favorite thing about horror is that it's a really interesting way to relate to and to be able to show those types of anxieties, right? Not specifically of these two movies, Images and Rosemary's Baby, but obviously these also. And so it would have been awesome to talk more about Images in this episode. So there's an alternate universe out there
yeah.
where the two of us are sitting down and we're not going to talk about MASH and we're going to talk about Images instead. Unfortunately for
That's not this
everyone,
universe.
which I mean,
I Yeah, I had
yeah.
never seen MASH. It was one of the. Well, at this point, do we just do MASH first? We're talking about it.
Yeah, why not?
Should we just do MASH first? It's chronological order. All right,
Yeah,
we'll just get in.
we normally do this in the portmanteau order, which makes
Right.
total sense because
Yeah,
it's
so it'd be the long good MASH. So we do the long goodbye first, then we do MASH. But
exactly
I think we did this with My Neighbor Totoro and Spirited Away.
right.
We did chronological order for that too, maybe. But oh man, MASH. I guess we'll just get into it. I don't have anything else for that first segment.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. MASH. You can actually do it the setup, but I will say this was one of the last big Robert Altman movies. Obviously, he has like dozens of movies, so I haven't seen them all. But out of his most popular movies, this was one of the last ones that I hadn't seen, and I watched it, and it's uh, very of its time. And in a way, I'm glad I watched it because now I never have to watch it again. So
I
I can just watch Images instead. Yeah, it's okay. Ryan, do you want to set it up your experience with MASH at all or so anything like that?
Yeah, so kind of conversely, right? As I already mentioned, this is kind of my one of my first of his big movies to watch. And in hindsight, I'm very glad that I watched two others that I was kind of interested in before watching this and The Long Goodbye, because while we'll get more into The Long Goodbye later, I think if I left this experience having just watched those two movies, I would have felt pretty weird and uninclined to maybe watch Images or um, the player
But
afterwards, right? But so I'm glad I watched them before because as we'll get into in a second, uh, there's a lot wrong with this movie.
yeah, yeah.
But just to set up real quick, I mean, everyone that's watching, there's gonna be spoilers here, but this is 1970. It's maybe his like fourth feature movie or something like that, third or
Something like
fourth.
that. He directed a lot of TV, I know, in
Yeah,
the 60s. And yeah, I know it's not his first movie, but it was definitely his big breakthrough. This was a huge hit.
yeah, and it's so it's based on a book called MASH, a novel about three army doctors that was published in 1968 by Richard, or under the name Richard Hooker, which is I think a pseudonym for uh someone, but it's more of like a memoir, right? It's kind of telling his real experiences there. Um, it's written for the screen by is that Ring Lardner Jr. Who
Yeah. Who actually was blacklisted in the 50s. He
oh
was like part of the Hollywood 10 apparently. He like
wow.
wouldn't cooperate with the House Un-American Activities Committee. I think that
Wow.
was Ring Lardner who was in that. I wasn't familiar with him before this, but I saw that on Wikipedia probably.
Well, that actually
So it
makes
has to be true.
sense. Well, that actually makes sense that Robert Altman would like collaborate with this guy because Altman is kind of, I would say, very anti-Hollywood and anti, maybe not anti like
Anti-establishment.
industry. Yeah, right, right. And so a lot of the stuff that he does, I would say, is kind of like even just like overlapping audio. This happens in like all of them, especially. I mean, oh man, in Nash, it's kind of
A
uh,
lot of it in MASH.
yeah, but in a lot of his like in the player, it's kind of very tangible and it's very like digestible, I would say, but it's still impactful in the way that he wanted it to be. But that's like something that's kind of weird, right? Like you don't really want that in a Hollywood movie necessarily. It's very naturalistic and not really perfect like Hollywood might want to show.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there are definitely times where people are talking over each other. You have no idea what either one is saying, and you can't really make it out. Whereas standard way to make a movie, you want to be able to hear every line of dialogue.
right. Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and it's shot by Harold E. Stein, which I noted. I think just because some of the shots were kind of neat, but I don't know. I didn't really look up anything else he's done, but um,
Yeah, I didn't. I'm not really familiar
yeah,
with him. I know the cinematographer from The Long Goodbye,
right,
the
right,
Vilmos Sigmund, iconic,
yeah,
But
and he has a lot of other collaborations with Altman, right? I think they'd make like 3 or 4 movies together.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But this movie was on a $3 million budget and blew up the box office with almost $82 million in the box office when it came out. It was banned in military bases because it depicts military people in a bad light, uh, which makes sense. But it's set in the uh, Korean War, although I think it's supposed to be like more metaphor. It's supposed to kind of represent the Vietnam War anxieties that were happening at the time in 1970.
It is
Um,
Korea though. Korea and they go to Japan at one point,
yeah,
and they're very sensitive and not at all racist.
yeah.
That was
Well,
that was a joke. That was called ironic.
yeah. So one interesting thing about the movie, just getting into it, is like if we want to do a plot overview, it would pretty much just be us explaining like 6 different small episodes that happen.
Yeah, it's super episodic.
Yeah, it's almost like so. This movie inspired the start of the sitcom, or I guess not really a sitcom, but
Yeah,
the show MASH. I don't know if it's a sitcom or not, but
I've never seen it.
yeah, but that ran
It
for a long time, like 11 years or
yeah,
something like that. And it doesn't share the same actors, I don't think, but
I think there's one actor who was the same, and that was it.
okay,
I forget who it was,
but
but
not one of the big guys, not like
no,
yeah.
not Elliott Gould or Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall just gets like whatever anyway. He just gets like
Yeah.
taken out of the movie and like arm. What's the restraint called? What's that? The arm.
Yeah, they use it in Magic, right? The
What is
restraining
that?
jacket, the restraining
Yeah,
jacket.
I think they
Yeah,
more use it in like mental hospitals than magic.
but like I don't know, like you won't see that in mental hospital nowadays. You'll see it
Not
in
in,
like
in the 70s though.
yeah,
They
yeah,
were wrapping everyone up in those things, right? I
yeah.
don't
But
know. Who
now
knows?
if you Google that, I
It's probably
swear the only
torture.
videos you're gonna find. Whoa, what? The only videos you're gonna
Oh,
find is like
I was just saying that today it's considered
oh
torture,
yeah, yeah.
not
Jeez.
videos of torture. That's not what I
No,
meant.
you're just gonna find videos of like magicians trying to break out of them or something. You put like 10 locks on them in weird places, and
Right, right.
anyway,
Oh,
I'd watch
straight
I'd watch
jacket.
weird stuff. Straight Jacket. There you go. Nice. But this movie, I mean, it really was a breakout. It won the
Oh
Palme
yeah.
d'Or, which was called something else at the time, the Grand Prix something. Um,
Okay,
but yeah,
I believe it.
I don't know. But and then it
I
also won the best adapted screenplay.
Wow, I completely forgot that this won the Palme d'Or.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind
Okay.
of crazy. So that's, I mean, really, there's not much plot to go over. There's like a few episodes that happen. Um, we can talk more about the episodes as we go through, but like that's the setup for this movie. It's kind of a breakout. It actually has like that whole spin-off TV series, and because of the success of the movie, the writer of the book made 2 new books, which is kind of
Oh
cool.
wow.
But
Yeah,
I don't,
and
yeah,
Robert Altman apparently hated the TV show, said it got like stood against everything that he wanted to represent with the movie. And apparently the show is much more pro-military, and the movie's obviously more of a satire.
Yeah.
Um, but I have not seen the show. I have no idea. But have you when? So you saw this movie as a kid, or did you see the TV show? Or
It's funny. I don't know.
okay,
Watching this movie, I'm thinking to myself that like I don't think my dad was in the army, right? So I think my dad probably watched the TV show,
hmm,
and so I probably watched bits of the TV show, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's possible that I've seen bits of this, but it's more likely that I've seen the TV show, I suppose.
right,
Either way, I don't remember much of it. So
right, gotcha. Yeah, I hadn't seen any of it, but yeah, I guess it's really like all right. So I was thinking about this movie and I was like, I'm not liking this movie at all. I am like mostly bored and I hate the characters and I'm not laughing that much. So it's like failing on a lot of those fronts. But I which I don't want to skip over. I guess we can talk about those things more in depth. But I was thinking about Robert Altman's movies in general. And some of his movies are focused on like one or two main characters. There's like Images, The Long Goodbye, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which those are actually the three that Vilmos Sigmund shot. And those are like my three favorite of his movies, probably. So there could be a whatever common denominator there. But uh those movies, California Split is like two guys that are just like degenerate gamblers and they're gambling the whole movie and it's awesome. Uh and uh and then some of his movies like Nashville, which is really good, but I don't connect with it as much. Or same with like Gosford Park, and this one are like huge ensembles, and there's not really a main character. And I think that when he does that, it's harder for me to connect with the movie. Because in this one, well, on top of there not really being a main character, they're also all complete assholes who you hate pretty much the entire movie. So that doesn't help. But also like there's you just can't connect with one of them. Like even I'm thinking even like Taxi Driver, that guy's not likable, but also it's just one character that I'm able to lock into. So I feel like that may have been part of the reason I was like unengaged through a lot of MASH. Also, I think just the humor didn't age well and didn't like I just didn't laugh that much, which is kind of rough in your sat 2 hour long satirical comedy. Um, but yeah, that was like an overarching thing where that I noticed where his ensemble movies are a little harder for me to get into, maybe just as a personal thing.
yeah, I can see that. I think yeah, I mean, I think in its core, this is about those three doctors, but there's also just a ton of characters. And even among the three doctors, like uh there's just too much to there's like it's weird because in the same way there's like too much about each character to connect with, like you were saying, but there's also not enough about the characters to care about them. Like there's just it's just a stew of people that you really don't like.
Yep. There are except Robert Duvall and Sally Kellerman, who are like viciously bullied and tortured,
Yeah.
like treated like absolutely like horrible by everyone else. They're piled on and like their lives are made hell, and also like sexually harassed, and yeah, it's pretty awful. And in a way, I could understand like if you're Robert Altman and you're like, well, yeah, the military is fucking awful. They're all scumbags who are well, whatever. I don't this is how the movie portrays them, to be honest, is that
Right.
everyone there is like an asshole who and a bully and treats women horribly. And I guess if you're super anti-military and you want to make that as your commentary of this like really toxic culture in the military, that could be really interesting. But I just found it like hard to like enjoy sitting through the movie with these characters that it was impossible to connect with.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think that you're right. Like I think that part of this is that the point here is to show the stuff that at least Robert Altman is trying to show happens in the military, right?
Yeah.
And in the same way that like this is gonna be a weird deep cut. Not really a deep cut, I guess, but a weird cut is that like warfare, right? Like Alex Garland's trying to show the brutality of warfare in a movie that like I wouldn't particularly want to sit through again right away, because it's pretty brutal. There's a lot of stuff that happens in that movie. I don't know if I need to see it again right now, but and so in a way, it's like you can see maybe that Robert Altman's trying to show some of like a different type of horror of warfare, and it's not necessarily appealing to watch, but is that the point? And I think there's a point to that, but also there's enough of it where it's also like, yeah, but also a lot of the jokes are just like homophobic and misogynistic and not
Right.
particularly funny.
And like in order to laugh at the jokes, you kind of have to be laughing with the asshole characters. Like you're
Yeah.
not really laughing at them being stupid, or at least I wasn't. Maybe other people do. But I think a large part of the reason it was probably a hit is because people thought the guys in the movie were really funny and they were like laughing with them. Um, which is maybe an indictment of like American culture that this became such a big hit, right? But but like just the way the movie is structured, it's like a hangout movie. Like it's episodic and the plot is very there's really no overarching plot of like
No.
anything. There's nothing taking us through all these segments. It's just this crazy thing happens. They're doing a prank on this lady. They're this guy wants to kill himself because he thinks he's gay, which is like maybe the most offensive of any of them. And then there's a football game at the end, and it's all very episodic and doesn't have much through lines. So it kind of is a hangout movie, which I would say The Long Goodbye is also a hangout movie, but you also have like maybe the coolest character of all time in the movie who's like just amazing. But this movie, now you have to hang out with a bunch of people that you hate.
Yeah, right. Like in a good hangout movie, like even in something like this, like again, I don't know, I'm just throwing out weird stuff, but like in The Hangover, right? Like you don't necessarily love all those characters all the time, but you don't mind spending the time with them. You know,
Yeah.
it like, but in this, it's like, yeah, I don't, I actually just actively don't want to engage with their humor and their stuff. But I think this is part of what like makes this movie kind of hard for me to really digest. Is that I really do understand the idea of showing again, like showing those horrors and showing that in like a what is supposed to be maybe a more funny way and making light of maybe not making light of it, but trying to bring it to light in a lightful way. But it also again like all that stuff like it actually still just feels like you're making all of it into a joke, right? Which it doesn't feel as much satirical and it feels just more goofy and comical. And or that's the it feels like that's the intent, and I don't like that.
Yeah, right. It feels like it's like downplaying. It doesn't feel like it's shining a light on the toxic culture of the military or whatever. It kind of just feels like making light of serious things, I guess. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think ultimately, like, I don't know, I just didn't really laugh very much, which is kind of hard to put as a critique in a movie, but because it's very subjective of what people find funny and what they don't. But like I wasn't really laughing. I think I honestly chuckled one time the entire movie. It was something toward the beginning. I wish I remember. I don't remember
yeah,
exactly what it was, but there was just like a little joke that I laughed at, I guess. But most of it, I kind of wasn't
yeah.
laughing.
And a lot of the jokes, like even if you exclude the episodic piece, right? Like, well, I'll say one thing about this is that much of the humor I think is more about the scenarios than the immediate jokes, right? There's not a lot of gags. There are some, but not a lot of gags, and I think that's a positive of the movie. I don't actually like the scenarios, and I don't think they work for me. But I think
Mhm.
if you can have the humor be embedded in the scenarios, so that it's not just oh he tripped, ha ha ha, right? But it's like oh there's actually something that builds up, and then the outcome is funny because of what else happened. That's really good, right? I think that works. Here, I think that's what it goes for, and I think that's it would work. Like so I think if it did hit, I can see why it hits hard, right? Because that's funnier than just somebody tripping. But ultimately, if it doesn't work, it kind of does feel like they're just pulling the um pulling the sheet over from the lady in the shower and sexually harassing her, right? And
Yeah.
like that's what it kind of seems like, even though I think it's really trying to build off of itself and be more scenario humor rather than gag humor. But I think again, just when it doesn't work, it still feels like just poor gag humor.
Yeah, it's very yeah, the maybe I needed some gags. Maybe I needed more jokes of something to keep me going through rather than just a bunch of people doing horrible things for the whole time or like hey, I will say the football game at the end, maybe one of the more realistic like football games I've seen where it's like plays happen, you kind of like understand what's happening to some degree. It looks kind of legit. Obviously, it's like amateur. It's not like high level football or whatever. But uh but also I didn't laugh throughout it at all, and I kind of was like, all right, just end the movie at this point. Like, why do I have to watch this whole football game at the end of this movie? Is this? It didn't really provide anything as far as like themes or ideas or comedy. So
I was so bored. I'm gonna be honest. The football game, I pretty much at that point was like looking stuff up on Wikipedia and crap. Like I was like, what notes can I write? Which like um
yeah,
no,
I
no,
agree.
I mean there's really yeah, that the whole it doesn't help that I'm not a particularly strong football fan. Uh I can see why like I guess the American that's like in American zeitgeist at the time. Oh, it still is obviously, but like, so I can see, I guess, like people that want to see this movie in 1970, um, maybe find that cool at the end.
I I think yeah, I don't. The football game kind of sucked. But a lot of the humor in it was like, especially with like pulling down the shower, like that, or the guys looking through the hole into
Oh,
the tent. Like it's a type of like Porky's style humor, which Porky's is like 11 years after this, I think. So, but that became a big thing, like the teen sex comedies in the 80s and stuff like that. And all that humor I pretty much hate, or even like Animal House, I think is a little bit
yeah.
similar, which is like 78, I believe. And maybe MASH is sort of an early version of that sort of raunchy, sexually explicit humor. And there's something too, like this is right after the sexual revolution. Like you can just talk about sex, but now it's a bunch of dudes who are like are just being assholes about it, I guess, in a way. It's not like any there's nothing liberating about any of it, you know what I mean? It's just more sexual and more horny, but in a like standard way. Um, but so I don't enjoy that humor, that style of humor, which is like a big portion of the movie, I think. And then I think the part that I found most distasteful about it is at the end of the movie, which is kind of a cool idea. They read the end credits over a loudspeaker. And it's just kind of cool because they do that earlier. They're like, "Oh, the movie we're watching tonight is blah blah blah, starring this person and that person." So they do it with MASH at the end while they're driving away, and they start saying, "Oh, starring Donald Sutherland," and it shows a shot of Donald Sutherland, and Elliott Gould, and it shows a shot of Elliott Gould. And then when they get to Sally Kellerman, it's the shot of the tent being pulled down, and I'm like, that is Sally Kellerman in the movie. Boom, it's them pulling down the tent, and that's all that character is to the movie. And that was the part that kind of cemented the movie. It seems to me to be just a misogynistic movie rather than a movie that's trying to comment on misogyny. So yeah, that was pretty rough and felt kind of disrespectful to Sally Kellerman, who I think actually gave like a good performance. Her and Robert Duvall were the only characters that I actually felt any sympathy for. And maybe part of this is being out of this time and whatever those characters were supposed to be like authority figures and the movie's supposed to be anti-authority. But I'm like, I don't know, are they that much of authority? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too much of a square, or maybe it's just times have changed to the point where now it's like any rebellion against any authority figure is not necessarily cool. Like they're just people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I guess in the movie they're supposed to represent the authority figures that or whatever. I don't know. But either way, I found it distasteful. I didn't like it.
I pretty much agree with all that. There's yeah, like there's just so much. It gets to a point where it's hard to defend and say, yeah, it is trying to shine a light on this stuff. Especially like you said, like pointing out that thing at the end is really good, a really good note because I think I noticed that at the end, but it didn't like I don't know. My brain was just clocked off at that point. I did like that they did the whole like PA system thing because I thought that was a fun
Yeah.
ending. But yeah, like there's just so much misogyny and again like going back to the episodes, there's that one episode of the guy who thinks he's gay and is like, oh,
Well,
I'm
I think he like got drunk and he couldn't get
yeah,
hard when he was trying to sleep with a lady the night before. So he's like, well, I must be gay. Yeah.
right, right, which is in itself pretty homophobic. But then
Yeah, and just dumb, but
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, but then also his solution to this is to kill himself, and everyone goes along with it, and everyone helps him get ready, and they give him, of course, a sleeping pill. Right? They don't actually let him do it, but like, what the hell?
Yeah, and their whole plan is they're gonna have this lady who Donald Sutherland has been sleeping with, even though she's married, they've been banging in the tent. And he's like, you should sleep with this guy because he thinks he's gay. He needs to, get it, he'll be all right after you sleep with him or whatever. And he like kind of pressures her into it a little bit. I don't know, it's kind of weird. And then she sleeps with him, and then he's fine after that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, another piece of like also the women here are just objects for the men to pull the showers down on and to
Yeah.
send to do whatever, right? And so um it's yeah, I mean it doesn't feel like it's actually trying to expose this stuff as much as it's actually just trying to use that stuff for humor. Um
Yeah.
and I
And
don't
it,
think that's funny.
yeah. Yeah, I think about and then it's very weird. The next day, the guy's like, "Oh, hey, I slept great last night, whatever, but he's all good now." And then the woman looks almost like in shock, like traumatized or something. That's maybe that's what I was reading into it, but she was just like staring off into space. She just seemed was acting weird. And
Mm,
then this is like her last day before she goes home or whatever. So, in the morning she gets picked up and she's like in a helicopter getting taken away to go back home. And she's like kind of has that dead look in her eyes, and then she looks at the camera and smiles. And it's like it was
mm.
just very strange. I was like, it was very kind of unclear what was going on there. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to add about that. I just thought that was weird. That
Yeah, I
whole
mean it's a very
subplot was
weird.
weird.
Yeah, and then I mean, like honestly, pretty much all the subplots. Like, so then they go to Japan, they do that golfing thing. I don't know, they're just super disrespectful to everyone there. But there are heroes, or I don't know if they're really heroes, but they're our main characters.
Protagonists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the people that we are supposed to find funny. And I don't
There's
know.
there are a few like gong hits in Japan.
Yeah, yeah, which
Yeah, I don't even think anything has to be said about that. Stupid, dumb
yeah,
70s.
yes, this it definitely feels like I don't know if I don't know, I guess, what I really was expecting out of this, but I guess I was definitely expecting it to be more of a satire on these things and less of a raunchy comedy with these things, right? And I think
Yeah.
there's a big distinction. It's surprising to me that this did so well. Palme d'Or, best adapted screenplay.
The Palme d'Or is surprising to me. I think that was probably more of a political thing of this is 1970. This is like an anti-war. That's how it was perceived, maybe. Um, and honestly, the French with American comedy, sometimes they have
Mm,
weird taste. They like Jerry Lewis a lot. They can be weird.
yeah, I think yeah,
But that is very strange to me. It kind of makes sense to me that it was a hit, but in a way of like people aren't people are laughing with the characters. I totally see how that could become a hit.
right.
Um, but yeah, the Palme d'Or is kind of weird.
But I will say, so one interesting thing about this is to go along with some more like Robert Altman stuff, right? It has some ridicule of God in this movie or ridicule of the belief in God. And this is 1970. It's like is it 2 years after the Hays Code ends? I think.
Yeah, maybe 3 years. Yeah.
Something like that. So it has that. It also has uh I wrote down
Yeah,
something else. Oh,
I
they say the F word. They say
fuck.
fuck at the end of the movie.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I wasn't
yeah,
sure if you're
not the
talking
other one.
about the slur.
No,
Gotcha.
but I think I think it said something about this being kind of the first major studio to use the F word, which led
Really? To
to
say fuck in a movie?
the first major studio film.
Wow.
There's like independent movies that have
Well,
used
yeah,
it,
yeah,
but
right, right, right.
yeah. But yeah, and so it led
Wow.
to, you know, more profanity in film afterwards. But I don't know if that's really to attribute to this or just the fact that Hays Code is gone at this point. You know, directors are going to be experimenting more and using that stuff more anyways. But it is also a very gory comedy. There's
Oh
that
yeah.
ridicule of God. It's like very, it kind of feels like anti-genre in a way because of the goriness and it's like wartime, but there's really no war and it's a comedy. But well, this isn't really the genre, I guess, but I didn't really find it very funny. That was
Yeah.
mostly a joke,
No.
but
No.
you know, it does feel kind of like anti-genre though, in the fact that there's so much kind of disalignment with what you would expect in a comedy.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's like a very cynical like nature to it. I mean, at the very beginning of the movie, it's literally like wounded and dead bodies being flown around in the helicopters, and then the "Suicide is Painless" song plays. That's the opening of the movie. I'm like, what a dark, darkly. Not that I didn't laugh at that, but I was like, wow, that's really dark way to start a movie.
I was kind of excited.
Yeah,
That
it
sounds
made
weird. Yeah, right.
yeah,
It
because it's
sounds
like
weird, but I was excited.
no, I
It's
get that because it's just so weird, and you're like, oh my God, this is way like edgier than I ever would have expected. And yeah, there definitely is like a lot of gore with the the surgery scenes, and they're very nonchalant about the surgery, I guess, which is
yeah.
kind of a thing that like maybe people don't want to like think about that like, oh, your doctor's supposed to be like perfect, which would be nice, obviously, but yeah,
Well,
I was gonna say that that scene where where Robert Duvall's character is praying, and then Elliott Gould and Donald Sutherland and maybe Tom Skerritt too. I don't remember. It might be he might be there too. I don't know. But they are ridiculing him like, oh, did you pray like or whatever? Like praying is just for I haven't prayed like that since I was 8, or did you find God here? Or were you always like this type of stuff? They're ribbing him. Um, but that is a kind of an example of like in a way, I guess you're like, well, the church is the establishment. This is anti-establishment. These guys are cool. Yeah, fuck those guys. Wow. But then if I think about The Long Goodbye, Marlowe in that, would he be a religious guy? I don't think so at all. But also, like his like catchphrase in the movie is like, ah, it's okay with me. And it's like there's the hippie girls that are like making hash brownies and all, and he's like, that's okay with me. And pretty much whatever anyone says, like, hey, don't involve me in it. I don't know, whatever. And he kind of does his own thing. And meanwhile, the characters in this they're just assholes. They're just assholes to everyone. And uh yeah, it was just they were just unlikable throughout. But yeah.
yeah. There is this idea that so in like so MASH, by the way, in case anyone doesn't know, stands for Mobile Army Surgical uh Hospital. And
Nice.
thank you. Um these are like pretty makeshift things. Like what it shows in the movie is pretty, from what I understand, like pretty accurate to what they probably were like. And the doctors here in like real life were not seasoned doctors, right? These are people like just out of med school that get drafted. And when you get drafted and you're a doctor, it's like, hey, cool, you're going to be a surgeon. You know, like, hey, you got to
Yeah.
do these. And so it makes sense that they're actually portraying the doctors as like kind of almost amateurish at times, right? Like they're they're very skilled at times, and you know, there's a time when he's like, right when I take my hands off, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna get me ready for gloves and blah blah blah, right? But there's also times where they're very just nonchalant and goofy and stuff. And anyways, but there's this idea that perhaps this movie is trying to show kind of the dehumanizing effects of war, where all of our main characters have seen so much gore and so much blood from, you know, the the height of the war. There's like thousands of casualties coming into these things, and then there's a period of like weeks where you have nothing, right? And over those weeks, people are kind of, they're playing around, they don't really know what to do, they don't have orders, they're just messing around. And so there's this idea that this movie is maybe trying to show just how dehumanized this process made our main characters. And I can understand that, but it still gets back to the whole like I can understand that idea, but it still just feels like I'm supposed to be laughing along with them. And
Yeah,
that's the
right.
problem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I could see people being, I don't know, this probably is a pretty realistic depiction of like what this would have been like, right? Um, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I just didn't enjoy
Yeah.
the movie. I like we said, there's the misogyny and stuff like has not aged well at all. There's also a Korean character in the movie. He's like Ho John or something like that. I think that's his name. And it's just very weird. He's like almost he just I don't know how old he's supposed to be. Is he supposed to be like a teenager? And he
But
kind of like helps him out. He's
yeah.
almost like he's like an intern or something. It's very strange.
Yeah. Which may be accurate. I know there's like a lot of times when the US military is in places, there's kind of like um you know,
Locals.
uh, yeah, like locals that will do help for them and stuff. And so maybe that's accurate. I'm not sure, but it is kind of it feels weird in the movie too. It's kind of out of it doesn't really feel like it makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. I wasn't they kind of treat him as like a servant almost. It did remind me of Warfare actually, where they have the two local Iraqi like translators or whatever, and they kind of use them as like guinea pigs and treat them as less than human. In this movie, there's a little bit of that, and maybe it's a commentary on that. But I wasn't really sure what was going on with that
Yeah,
character.
yeah. I mean, I think overall, like I agree. I think there is some stuff here that feels like it could be good commentary, but I think that's also a very generous, like modern interpretation of the movie. And I feel like the success that the movie had, at least in the box office, um, and here in America, was probably like the success of the movie was probably more of people laughing along with the characters. And I don't
Yeah.
think it was because people were approaching it with a generous 21st century lens, right?
No, but that could have been the Palme d'Or, maybe.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I went into this not expecting a comedy, if I would have like appreciated this almost as a drama, you know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because if I had, maybe I would have appreciated the realism of it or the like kind of no holds barred like portrayal of these characters as assholes. Like maybe I would have found it more interesting because there are plenty of movies with unlikable characters that I really enjoy. But I think maybe my expectations for this like just didn't work at all for that because I was expecting it to be kind of a raucous comedy. And maybe I should have gone into it like without that expectation. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it's interesting. The expectation can be very important. And I think this kind of lives on in legacy today as being this kind of this kind of comedy, right? Like you go into this, I think, expecting, at least we went into this certainly expecting similar things, it seems. And yeah, like that's just what it is today. Like that's how it lives on today, right? I think when you go on, you read about it online, you're probably reading about people that expect what we expected, right? And so their interpretation is probably going to be very similar. But yeah, I mean, I think if you could go into this, clear slate, and you went in with that lens, I think, and again, that's kind of what troubles me is I think there is some cool stuff there, and I think that's a lens that I would love to approach this with. And it's kind of, I mean, it's a lens that I did kind of try to go in with, but it's still hard to get past all the other stuff that's in here that didn't work for me. Um,
Yeah,
Also, fun
agreed.
fact: the "Suicide is Painless" song. It says at the beginning was written by Michael Altman. I
Oh,
looked that up. That was his son. Is his son? I assume. I don't know,
yeah.
but and he was 14 years old at the time.
Really?
And yeah, so kind of maybe he's in his edgy phase. I don't
I
know.
guess so. That is insane that that song was written by a 14-year-old.
14, yeah.
Is he alive today or anything?
I
Did
could, he doesn't have his own Wikipedia page, and
mm,
so I couldn't find much about Robert Altman to, sorry, Michael Altman today.
wow.
But
That
yeah,
if I had a 14-year-old kid that wrote that song, I'd be concerned. I'd be deeply concerned. Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah.
I
You
don't know
want to
if
do
I
our
have that.
ratings? Yeah,
Yeah, we can do our ratings. I gave it 2 stars. I didn't enjoy it. I quite disliked it and found it distasteful.
Yeah, I'm making my rating up on the spot. I had been thinking about it for a while. I'm gonna give it 2.5, I think, because there is I don't know. I wish I could go in. I wish that there was just maybe even if they just remove, I don't know, whatever. I could rationalize it all the time, but I'm not going to. I'm giving it 2.5. Whatever. I didn't really like it, but I can kind of see what it's going. I no, I don't know. I can kind of see a world where it's good.
Yes, right. Like you could, yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
I agree.
yeah,
It's just it's hard for me to think that it's fully a satire against these characters when so much of it is meant to kind of be comes off as we're supposed to laugh along with them.
yeah,
And like I said, that shot of Sally Kellerman in the credits, I also found like kind of was like an indicator that the movie is, like you said, like treating the women characters as objects. Like they have pretty much no agency at all in the
right.
movie. Which in theory you could be like, hey, the women don't have agency in the military. It's commenting on that. But it doesn't come off that way to me. It just comes off as that's just how the movie sees women.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
I mean, also in that final shot, there's like kind of an iconic scene of her like yelling at the not colonel, whatever, captain or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
the guy in charge is like, she's yelling at them to get them out of here. And he's like in bed with
yeah,
another woman. Yeah.
and but there's kind of like she has like this shampoo in her hair and like but she has clothes on and she's like kind of angry, and that would have been like actually a good shot if you're trying to show kind of what they've driven her to and stuff, right? And like that would be an interesting shot of not that she is this object for their pleasure, but that she is being abused by them, and that she can stand up against that, or
Yeah.
even if she couldn't, that I don't know, you know what I mean? Like that would have been a better
Yes.
shot.
Oh, and so there's also when they're making fun of her, there are like women that are also making fun of her, and no other woman like seems to have a problem with what they're doing, which
Yeah,
seems unlikely to me. And then also, this was a thing that I found strange in the football game. Sally Kellerman's character, whatever O'Houlihan, I think Margaret O'Houlihan, she's like a cheerleader or something, and she's just like part of the crew now. And I'm
yeah,
like, wait a minute, I don't think I missed anything. You hated all these people's guts. You absolutely hated them. And then now you're just a part of the crew? And like it was extremely strange and
yeah.
like kind of showed them not treating her character with any like care or consistency or anything. It was just yeah, very poorly done, I think. So yeah, that's why I gave it 2 stars. So basically fuck
Yeah,
this movie, yeah, whatever.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm sticking with the
But
2.5, but I can see honestly, like it's so weird, this movie. I'm so surprised. But here's the rating recap. Um,
yeah.
again, probably a surprise, I'm gonna say. But 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 86% Rotten Tomatoes critic score, 82% audience score, and a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, bringing it to 7 point. I'm just gonna start rounding these instead of saying like 5 decimal places. 7.8 average out of 10.
What's the
Um,
full average?
7.775.
That's not that bad. You can say that.
Fine,
It could.
whatever, whatever. I'll say 3 decimal places every
It's only
time.
3 decimal places. I mean,
Yeah. All right. It's a 7.775, which
wow. I appreciate your accuracy. Thank you.
it's actually precision, but it's fine.
Both. I appreciate both.
Whatever. Yeah, I think it's pretty high. I mean, again, I
I
mean, it made a
think
lot of the box office. People like it, I guess.
I'll tell you what, a lot of shows, a lot of podcasts, they don't want to shit on the classics. They're like, oh, people love it. I can't not like this. Guess what? No holds barred here in Mind Your Movies. If we don't like the fucking movie, we're gonna say we didn't like it.
Yeah, we're here to tell you the truth.
Yeah, or at least
Well,
we're
our
we're here to
truth.
say our truth, which that
Yeah.
sounds lame as hell. But that is what it is. We're just saying our perspective. But hey, if people disagree and they want to comment and try to explain your perspective about the movie, I'm totally open to hear that. But
Please, yeah.
just there were a lot of reasons I didn't like it. But
I will say one final thing about MASH before we move on. It's just
yeah.
I can see from the episodic nature of it, and kind of the raunchy comediness, um, that I can see how this evolved. I guess not really evolved. It depends on who you ask, I guess, but how this spawned that long lasting show afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. I
Makes
agree.
total sense.
Oh yeah, it felt very episodic, just the movie itself. So
Yeah.
makes sense. All right, should we get to the good one now?
Yeah. Well, it's time to say a long goodbye to MASH.
Yeah,
And
goodbye and never see you again. Get the fuck out of here. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, MASH. Time for a good fucking movie. The Long Goodbye. God damn, Elliott Gould is the coolest motherfucker in the history of movies. The Long Goodbye,
careful,
not 1973. What?
careful. You can get lung cancer just by saying that about this guy.
Yeah, I could. Oh my God, the cigarette strikes on his wall. This guy could light a match on any surface. This guy could light a match on the ocean.
Yeah.
Uh, The Long Goodbye, directed by Robert Altman, came out in 1973. Written by Lee Brackett, the writer who also based on a book by Raymond Chandler of the same name. Lee Brackett also adapted the Raymond Chandler novel The Big Sleep in the 40s to a noir, and she also wrote The Empire Strikes Back, which is pretty awesome. Uh, and yeah, this is based on a Raymond Chandler book. It's a neo-noir. It's definitely in that you know, ethos of a neo-noir, but it really is a noir taken into the 70s, and that's a very important part of the milieu of the movie. But yeah, Elliott Gould plays Philip Marlowe. He's a private detective. You know, business hasn't been very good recently, which is kind of funny because it's the 70s. Obviously, things are on the downturn for private detectives, probably. Um, but beginning of the movie, he wakes up, he has to give his uh cat food, and he's out of cat food, so he has to go to the grocery store, try to find some. He can't find the curry brand cat food anywhere. It's quite a predicament. Meanwhile, his friend Terry Lennox, played by pitcher Jim Bouton. He was a baseball player. He's not even an actor.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And he has some scratches on his face, and he's driving out of a uh housing complex with a security guard who does impressions of famous actors, which is very funny. Um, and
Which lives on for the whole movie.
yes, it does. It's awesome. And yeah, he basically the setup. He goes to Philip Marlowe's house, and Marlowe's like, "Oh, did you and your wife get into it again? What the hell? Whatever." And he's like, "Hey, like people are gonna be coming after me. You gotta drive me to Tijuana." He's like, "Right now." He drives him to Tijuana, and after that, Marlowe is involved in a complicated plot with several characters. He doesn't know who's telling the truth, who's lying. He's trying to figure things out of what happened because Terry Lennox's wife is found dead, and then they find that Terry Lennox died in Mexico. So Marlowe is trying to figure out what happened. And yeah, it really is a uh, classic noir protagonist taken into the 70s. Um, and it's just a fucking awesome movie. I love it. It's so watchable and just great dialogue, incredible lead performance. Just and this type of movie is just like a perfect, just a subgenre of movie that I just enjoy. I could just watch it all day. Um, so yeah, anyway, that's the basics of it. But Ryan, what did you think?
That's pretty good. Yeah, this movie
Yeah.
was pretty awesome. It the main character is just a lot of fun. He's like this fast talking, chain smoking. In fact, actually, there's like almost every scene, there's just like a wall of smoke, which actually is really interesting in the cinematography and works well with like the lighting of the movie. But it's
Yeah.
also just very funny that there's like like a wall of smoke around this guy. um, but overall, I mean, the movie is it's pretty funny. It's got a pretty interesting story too. Like the ending is pretty neat. I was pretty surprised. There's a lot of like what do you call it? Just kind of random humor at times, where like the guy and the security guard that you mentioned, um, and also what's his name? Roger Wade is just a really eccentric character,
Oh
very
yeah.
weird guy. I have written down that he yells "balls, baby, balls." I don't remember exactly why, but I know that he yells that.
Yeah.
Um,
He's he's played by Sterling Hayden, who was in The Killing. So there's another noir connection there. But yeah, he seems very inspired by Ernest Hemingway. He's this alcoholic writer who's a big boisterous. He's literally huge. He's a giant man, and he's very boisterous and eccentric, and also abusive and a drunk. Um, so yeah, definitely a troubled character, but in such a an entertaining way. The movie's funny, but it's not wacky at all. A lot of the humor comes out of the characters, like out of the situations. So like the security guard who does kind of come into play in the movie. Not really, but like I think all the side characters, sort of like the hippie neighbors, this apartment with a bunch of girls who are like always topless and doing yoga and smoking weed and stuff right next door. And Marlowe really doesn't even pay him any mind, which is kind of interesting, especially as a contrast to the characters in MASH, who would have been like, "Oh, Ooga, humana, humana, humana." But Marlowe really doesn't care. But all these like crazy side characters just kind of add to even the beginning of the movie when he goes to get the Curry brand cat food, and he asks one of the guys that works at the grocery store, like, "Oh, you have any Curry brand cat food?" And the guy's like, just get this one. It's all the same, whatever." And he says, "Oh, you got a cat? Why would I get a cat? I have a girl." And he's like, "Oh, I don't have a girl or whatever." A lot of mumbling to himself, also Marlowe. A lot of
yeah,
mumbling to himself. But like that character also comes back when Marlowe goes to jail. He's also in jail, and he says that his girl was taken in at a protest rally, so then he had to defend her or whatever. Um, so there's all these kind of quirky, unique characters that just add to the milieu of the 70s, which is so crucial to this movie, I think. So yeah.
yeah, definitely. And like especially and even like Marty, the kind of gangster guy. Uh,
Yep.
there's like even in kind of exciting moments and stuff like he smashes the Coke bottle on his girlfriend's face and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
kind of a really tense moment, but it's also kind of funny because it's just such a weird thing to do. Like this guy is just such a weird character, you know.
Yeah, he
um
is very weird. It's very shocking just out of nowhere. You don't expect it. The violence in this movie is pretty like shocking and out of nowhere, which I think
yeah,
works.
yeah, definitely. And again it like kind of fits with the, every character is just like a world of themselves, right? Like it's very interesting. You could
E-
follow Marty around for a whole movie, you know.
Even one of the funniest things in the movie is Harry, the like henchman, who after Marty, smashes the bottle on his mistress's face, uh, Harry, who's played by David Arkin, who's actually in MASH also as like a supporting. It seems like
Oh.
he was in like a few Altman movies and didn't do that much acting outside of that. But anyway, the, Harry is supposed to follow Marlowe, and Marlowe knows that obviously, oh, they're going
Yeah.
to leave someone watching me, so he sneaks out and he gets around so he can follow them without Harry knowing. But then the next morning, he comes down and the way he interacts with Harry is just hilarious, and he gives him the address. He's like, "Hey, I'm coming here, so you can follow me or whatever." And Harry's just a bumbling fool, basically. He's constantly staring at the naked neighbors. He instead of hopping right in his car, he has to throw away his like fast food trash, and he nearly throws away the address. He even when he follows him there, he can't even follow him properly, and he's like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be seen." And he tries to climb the fence, and the door opens, and he's just constantly failing. But I don't know, in the way that you could imagine a new person working any job would just fail at these basic things, but it's very funny. And it kind of comes off as realistic. Like I think even Marlowe says at one point, "You'll never be a good hood" or something like that. And
Yeah,
it's just very funny. All the characters are unique and funny, I think.
definitely. And that's really like I was saying with MASH, kind of like where the humor isn't necessarily in the gags,
Yeah.
the humor is in the scenarios and potentially the characters. maybe not so much in MASH, but here definitely it's in the scenarios and the characters, and I think that really builds a good comedy, right? That's how you get like Big Lebowski, and things like that that are
Oh yeah.
just overwhelmingly funny, and also just better on the rewatch too, right? Like I could imagine watching this again and finding it even funnier and finding new things. Like
Yeah.
every time that Roger talks to Marlowe, did you hear what he was calling him?
Marlboro. Yeah. Yeah, he
Yeah.
calls him Marlboro the whole movie. Yeah.
Yeah, like the cigarette. It's so funny.
Yes.
Um, yeah, like there's just so much stuff. I didn't write down. Um, comedies can sometimes be weird to talk about because it's like, do I just talk about the jokes I found funny?
Hmm.
But I didn't
And
write
this one
down too
is,
many of them.
yeah, this one is like, it is a comedy, but it's really just like a noir story. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of in between, which actually makes sense. I have this, I wrote a bunch of movies that relate to this movie, I think. And there's kind of a timeline, and there's actual noir, which is The Big Sleep, Out of the Past, and The Killing. And
Hmm.
those are kind of movies that feel related. I mean, The Big Sleep is written by Raymond Chandler, written by Lee Brackett. Out of the Past, I feel like has a similar sort of laid back main character in a way, who's sort of resigned to his fate in a way. And then The Killing has Sterling Hayden in it, so there's a little bit of relation there. And then there's sort of the 70s neo-noir era, which is this and Chinatown were big, and there's a bunch of there's other ones too. Um, Another one would be Night Moves would be probably another one that's pretty good. But I feel like, Chinatown, it's basically taking a noir and putting it in color and a little bit darker and more explicit. This one obviously has a more comedic angle on it. And then in like the 90s, there's Jackie Brown and The Big Lebowski, which feel very influenced by The Long Goodbye. The Big Lebowski for sure, with just amping up the comedy in this, but putting an out of place. This time he's literally like a stoner and an alcoholic, whereas Marlowe just has the vibe of a stoner. Um, uh, and but yeah, in The Big Lebowski they up the comedy a lot, and then Jackie Brown I
Yeah.
think has a similar like hangout vibe, and also a similar sort of balance of comedy and uh, drama and stuff. And then there's some other movies too, like Inherent Vice, and The Nice Guys, and also Under the Silver Lake, which feels very influenced by this too. But this sort of hazy, like stoner neo noir type of a vibe is like just an awesome subgenre. Every single movie listed is fantastic, and they're all rewatchable and they're all great. Um, and a movie that kind of fits in the genre but is bad is Pool Man. Do you know this movie?
No.
It's directed by Chris Pine and starring Chris Pine as a pool man, and he's trying to be the Big Lebowski, and
Um,
he's trying it, and I wanted to like the movie, I wanted to, but it's just not very good. But that's another movie that's kind of in this subgenre. But this is sort of an in between the more comedic versions of it and the original noir. But it's nice how they add the comedy to this. It makes it very rewatchable, I think.
Again, I think this goes into also Robert Altman's like often seems that he often is kind of anti-genre, right? Like he's not trying to necessarily fit into a genre. He's just making the movie, right? And he's making it more naturalistic, where it blends in between genres, and dialogue blends together, and jokes blend, and scenarios blend into the humor, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a much more
Eh,
naturalistic approach to storytelling. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And McCabe and Mrs. Miller, I think, is another perfect example of this, of sort of a new 70s New Hollywood take on a Western, where it's everything is muddy and dirty and things are dark, like literally dark because they're in the Old West. And when it gets to nighttime, you don't have lights. So it's literally dark. But, and just a more, like you said, more naturalistic version of these classic genres. And that was definitely seemed to be something that he was interested in it, with this and McCabe and Miss Miller, even Images maybe,
Yeah.
his own take on a horror movie.
There's also a fun little tidbit here is there's the um, long goodbye song here,
Yeah.
which is kind of the theme song of the movie, perhaps. and every time it's played, it's in like a different. This is like just another piece of like this kind of funny, maybe like quirky humor that's like not really a gag, I guess, but like it's just something every time it comes on, you're hit with it, and it plays in a different tune every, or I don't know if you call it a tune or whatever, but
Different instrumentation because like it just plays at the beginning and then there's a guy at the bar who plays it on the piano. And then when he's in Mexico, there's like a band at a funeral who's plays the Long Goodbye. It plays on the radio, all like in diegetically in the scene. But all in different types of ways and obviously ways that are unrealistic and don't make sense. Um, but yeah, it's awesome. Also, the composer of this movie, John Williams. Yeah, but probably the greatest of all time. Some of the most iconic scores. This is only a couple of years before Jaws, and then obviously Star Wars and Indiana Jones and all the other iconic scores he's done over the years. But yeah, pretty awesome that he made this really cool uh, theme for the Long Goodbye.
yeah, yeah. John Williams, awesome.
Yes.
You can see it here. Like that's there's probably, I mean, John Williams has probably done over 100 movies, but I'm sure there's movies that you watch and you might not notice, right, that it's him. But I feel like right when um I started hearing the nice music and everything, I was like, I gotta look up who composed this,
Hmm.
and of course it's John Williams. Of course it is,
Yeah,
because
I
he's
wouldn't.
fucking amazing.
Yeah, it is awesome, but it doesn't feel like a what I think of as a John Williams score because I think of like something a lot more bombastic and big and epic and adventurous.
Yeah,
This is way more low key than what he is known for.
right. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. This movie uh did not do well.
I'm not surprised.
This movie, the budget was 1.7 million, and the box office was under $1 million. This is a good way to like half your money, I guess, if you wanted to.
If you wanted to lose $700,000,
Yeah. Which is
that makes
crazy.
sense.
Um, yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I think this was like I don't know. It's too low key for it to be a big
Mm.
hit, I think. I think this is the type of, I mean, The Big Lebowski wasn't a big hit when it came out, and now it's like a huge cult class. Or Inherent Vice, who Paul Thomas Anderson was sort of hugely inspired by Robert Altman, and he like worked with him a little bit at the end of his career. Um, like Inherent Vice was also not a big hit either. I think this movie has like a unique tone and vibe that you kind of have to be on the same wavelength as it. And I
Mm.
think general audiences kind of want something maybe a little more exciting or a little more traditional. Yeah.
So, do you think that it has anything to do with like the Marlowe character being much different than the book? Because it's like a book series with this private detective guy.
No, I don't necessarily think so. I think also like there's probably a lot of I don't know. I think if people wanted to watch a detective thing, they probably wanted it to be more serious than this. This is kind of like a revisionist type of a thing on like a noir.
Mhm.
Um, but also like a traditional noir detective story is kind of out of date at this point. Like
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it just wasn't
Hence,
the
yeah.
right time and place for this. Because I don't know that Raymond Chandler like it's not like general audiences are big Raymond Chandler fans. General audiences probably in America just don't read. Right. So
Yeah, well,
for a
it's
movie to be a big
interesting.
hit.
I would definitely say today, right? Like this is an interesting thing that I wrote down, right? This is only uh 20 or something years after the book came out, probably. This is 73. I'm sure the book was in, I looked it up. I think it's in the 50s or something.
Yeah.
But so it's like maybe 20 years after the book. And uh I could see kind of a world where the audiences maybe expect like this being like a kind of a straight book adaptation, right? Because there's a lot of like Chandler adaptations, right? And so I kind of see that, and then now that we're like so far from the book, like people either haven't read the book or don't care about the Marlowe character from the book, or we just don't read anymore, right? Whatever it is. Where now it's like more well received because people go into it without that expectation. but I also have no idea how people in the 70s were on reading Chandler or not. But that was my
Yeah.
thought maybe. But I could see
I
also like the connection with the Big Lebowski, like you said, I forgot. But yeah, that didn't do well when it came out and stuff. So I can
yeah.
see like it's just not the maybe not the movie that'll make a bunch of money right away.
Yeah, exactly. I think some movies just are destined to be cult classics, and this was one, and that's okay. I love it
Yeah,
anyway. That's okay.
that makes sense.
But it is kind of interesting. Like this movie has in like a pretty amazing cast. Like Elliott Gould is incredible. One
Mm-hmm.
of the maybe the most underrated actor of the '70s. I think he's just fucking awesome. Any
I'll tell
movie
you
I see
what,
him in, he's awesome.
I loved him in MASH.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When Elliott Gould comes into MASH, I'm like, fuck yeah, Elliott Gould is here. Like, this is awesome. And then I'm like, oh, you're just a prick, just like all the other guys. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe for the
Yeah,
first 10 minutes he's in MASH, I'm like, well, this is Elliott Gould. He's the coolest guy, motherfucker of all time. But also, then the movie kind of just is the movie. But in this movie, he gives it to you the whole time. He's awesome. He's the best. And then like Nina Van Pallant as Eileen Wade is really good. Really kind of a low-key femme fatale character. Like she comes off as pretty likable, I think. I think in a lot of noirs you watch them and you're like, well, this lady seems suspicious. Maybe don't trust this lady. That's the genre you're in. But this movie, she does kind of come off as genuine. Um, like when she's trying to act that way for Marlowe for most of the movie. Sterling Hayden, incredible, like we said before. And then like Mark Rydell as Marty Augustine is really good, and Henry Gibson as Dr. Veringer. Like Henry Gibson is just like one of those guys you're like, oh, I've seen that guy before, and he plays like a creepy little doctor guy really, really well. And
yeah.
him chasing Marlowe around like the grounds was very funny. But yeah, anyway, that character is just kind of interesting. But then Jim Bouton is Terry Lennox, like I said, who's was a baseball player, and fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger's in this movie for one scene, and he has no dialogue, and it's like he's uncredited.
Yeah, he
Uh,
takes his pants off.
yeah, he's got his shirt off, pants off, like showing off the guns. Um, Also, apparently, Robert Altman is uncredited as ambulance driver. I didn't even notice that, but I have it written down.
I guess when
Um,
yeah, when they're pulling up on the to the hospital or something.
I guess
When
so.
he's at the hospital, I remember there's an ambulance in the driveway at one point. So maybe yeah,
I
interesting.
guess so. Yeah, I didn't. I wrote it down like before I watched the movie, and then when I was watching the movie, I was just so in the movie, I didn't even pay attention and
Yeah.
completely forgot about it, so I didn't notice. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, like
I noticed Arnold and I was like, wait a second. Why does that look like a young Arnold with a mustache? And then I looked it up and I was like, holy crap, that's
yeah,
Arnold. And
yeah.
it's like his only well, he's in like maybe one thing before this, but
I think it
very
might just
early.
be the documentary, like Pumping Iron,
Oh,
maybe.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, amazing, very funny, very cool.
Yeah, but the main performances are all really really great. Like even just the scenes of most of the scenes are just people talking to each other, and like you need also the writing is just fantastic, and
Yeah,
that's Raymond Chandler and also Lee Brackett, some combination of the two. But just having like the dialogue is all just really fantastic. Um, and yeah, Marlowe's kind being such a smart ass is very very funny.
yeah. And one thing that I read about Altman, but I don't know, I don't know if that was specifically about this movie, but I know that he let actors improvise their lines a lot, and that was kind of one of
Mhm.
his things that he felt was helping to make movies feel more naturalistic, and kind of using scripts as like a guide of the character instead of a script for the character in a way. I don't know how. I mean, this is kind of uh, I don't know how much that applies to this movie specifically, but just another note to like just how good the actors are if they're improvising at all, because this movie's the interactions with all the characters are just awesome. So
Yeah, definitely. It all feels extremely natural. Even like Sterling Hayden's performance, which is very big, like it's kind of believable that you're like, this guy probably like he seems like a real guy.
yeah,
Maybe that's because we have that sort of boisterous writer, Ernest Hemingway, type in
persona.
our
Yeah.
yeah, it's sort of a archetype, I guess. Um, but yeah, that is definitely there. And then also this movie has like a very, very negative portrayal of police. They're
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they basically lock up Marlowe for 3 days for not cooperating and just try to get him to talk. And they, uh, yeah, a lot of
They F slur him.
yeah, they call him gay slur. Yeah, they're pretty not nice, and it's kind of understandable why he doesn't want to. Well, he doesn't want to cooperate with them, probably because he doesn't like the police, but also because he believes his friend. Um, and yeah, that's like a big part of the movie is Marlowe trusting his friend.
Yeah. Before we jump in a little bit more into that, I will
Mhm,
say in the interview scene,
mhm.
Marlowe does blackface.
No, he doesn't. He makes a joke. He does not do blackface. No, no,
Okay.
no, no, no.
All right.
He has the ink from
Yeah, yeah.
getting his fingers printed on his hands. And at first he puts some on his cheeks and he makes a football joke like, "Oh, put me in the game, coach," or something like that. Because
But
he
he
has the
doesn't
eye
stop
black.
there.
He has the eye black on his cheek. Yes, and then he puts a little on his forehead and he makes a joke about blackface saying something like, I forget exactly what he says, but something about Al Jolson or something like that. So he does make a comment on it, but he never like tries to act
Yeah,
like a
yeah, right.
black stereotype.
Gotcha.
So
Well,
I don't think
who?
it counts.
Yeah. Do you know who Al Jolson is?
Yeah, the jazz singer.
Oh,
The first ever sound movie is Al Jolson singing in blackface.
what? Oh, wait, in
Yeah.
blackface. Wait. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's white. He's white. And he, in the first ever sound movie, the jazz singer, he's in blackface.
Okay. That makes more sense. I just kind of assumed that the person he said, I didn't really hear exactly who he said he was being. And I
Mhm.
just assumed he said he was being a black person. And I was like, wait a second. Hold
Gotcha.
on.
That makes sense why
So
that.
without the context of who Al Jolson,
Yeah.
Jolson,
Jolson, yeah.
without the context of who he really said or whatever, I was like, this is a weird bit of the movie here. Uh,
Yeah, that would be weird if he was like, "Hey, I'm Sammy Davis Jr." Hey, like that'd be
yeah,
weird.
that's
Yeah,
what I thought
then
happened.
that
Yeah.
would be
Okay.
okay. That's not what happened.
I'm glad I brought this up because I was kind of like I don't know if I need to bring this up, but I'm glad I did because I understand that scene much better now.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, there you go. I forget exactly what Marlowe says, but maybe the cop calls him Al Jolson or something like that.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
I can't remember exactly what he said. A lot of the dialogue is mumbly and
Right.
can be hard to
Exactly.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and over. I think especially in the interview scene, it's also over. I think there's some overlapping dialogue, and it was hard to
Yeah.
make out everything. So I just kind of I heard that and was like, wait a second.
Yeah,
Oh,
because at that point it's like he's talking in the interrogation room, but then there's also the people watching through the
right.
two-way mirror and they're talking to each other. So it could be that could be a factor too.
Yeah.
Makes it harder to understand.
Phew. Good.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. I'm glad to clear that up, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
anyway, but yeah, a lot of this has to do with him trusting his friend.
yeah.
And this kind of gets to the end of the movie, which is a very interesting and surprising end to the movie where his friend's alive.
Yeah. Yeah, it turns out he's been in Mexico. He faked his death. He gave the Mexican police 5 grand, a James Madison $5,000 bill. And they faked his death, and he's waiting for Eileen Wade to meet him in Mexico. Uh, Turns out Terry was sleeping with Eileen, and Roger told Sylvia, who's Terry's wife. He went over and told her. She freaked out about it, and Terry killed her. And that's what happened. It wasn't that Roger was sleeping with Sylvia or anything like that, like Marlowe suspected. And he also suspected that Roger could have killed her too. Um, but yeah, so that turns out that's what happened. He explains that, and then Marlowe just shoots him dead right there. Um,
Which of
Maybe
course we started this episode by quoting the very end of the movie.
yeah.
But you guys know the drill, hopefully, at this point. We're
Oh
spoiling
yeah,
it.
it's fine. That's fine. It's fine. It doesn't ruin the movie really at
No, no.
all. Doesn't.
Also, the movie's 50 years old.
It is, but it is, which is fucked up. 52 years. But yeah, awesome ending. And then I just love the slow fade where he shoots him and he's in the river, and there's the shot of Terry's in the river, and the slow fade with Marlo walking down this long street, tree-lined street in Mexico, and then you see Eileen coming on a truck, and the fade is really, really slow,
It
and
takes the whole time. Yeah.
it's awesome, yeah. And then Eileen sees Marlo and kind of does a double take, and then she drives off, and Marlo kind of maybe ironically, he kind of like skips along, he like dances with an old lady, and then the credits roll, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating ending, and definitely kind of solidifies Marlowe kind of feeling like uh, a kind of like a fish out of water or something in the movie, where
Mm,
he's trying to solve this thing and he's trusting his friend. The whole reason that he's in this situation relies on him trusting his friend, and um and in reality he was in the dark the whole time, right? And when
right.
he finally figures it out and he's there, well, I would say he's not very happy about it.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think is the main driving factor of him killing Terry Lennox? Because there's kind of multiple elements involved, I think.
Oh, that's interesting. I just think
Because
it's because Marlo kind of seems like a black and white, like moral guy, right? So he's like Terry Lennox, bad thing, right?
I
Bam.
don't think so.
No? All right. What do you
I
got?
don't know that that's what it is because he isn't that moralistic throughout the movie. Like I said, he is always like, ah, that's okay with me. That's okay with me. And Roger Wade is
Yeah.
like abusive to his wife, but at one point he's like, hey, I kind of like the guy. He's whatever. And
All
he
right.
he's
You're right.
not
You're right.
necessarily this moral beacon, I don't think, which is a much more 70s. Not that noirs were this moralistic genre. They were kind of the most gray area, like interesting of that era.
Right.
But uh I think it's I don't know. I think it's more driven by being angry that he felt betrayed and lied to. And
Revenge.
also uh like you roped me into this shit. But not even revenge, but more just a feeling of betrayal. Like that we were friends and you fucked me over like this. You got me involved in this murder. I trusted you and now, and you did this shit.
He's actually just taking out his anger on his cat betraying him and leaving on his friend here.
Yeah, yeah. But that's got to be it. There you go. That's it. But yeah, I think I
Yeah,
don't know, it's
yeah,
kind
I
of an
see it.
interesting ending where like he doesn't have to kill him.
Yeah.
Like
No, yeah.
he could just
And
be like he could just let him go or whatever, or just move on and be like, "Oh, okay, that's what happened. Now I can move on or whatever."
yeah,
Like
it
it's
surprised me when he killed him. That was a surprise. I did not expect that.
yeah, it is definitely surprising. And I don't think it's really a moral act. Like in a
Yeah.
way, wouldn't the moral thing be to, well, I don't know, you're not going to bring him
Well,
back to America to face justice.
I feel like the moral, yeah, I don't know. I mean, um, you're probably right. It's probably not a moral thing. I guess in my head,
It
it's
could
like
be.
cleaning up the mess, right? Like this is the moral mess of the situation, right?
Hmm. But
But
then, yeah.
and then you shoot him, he goes into the water, and it's all clean, right? You get it, you're good. Hands are metaphorically clean,
But
but
then Eileen is still there, and
yeah,
she's going to be pissed about that. And who knows? Uh, like, in a way,
yeah,
it's almost cleaner if he just kind of like goes off and it's like, all right, well, you're gonna act like that. I mean, there is a moral element to it, I think, because he is very disgusted by the photos. Like when he sees she was like beaten to death, like he sees it and he's like, Terry never could have done that. You know what I mean?
right.
Like, so there is that element, I think, that's like, how could you do that to Sylvia? But also, I think it is like him feeling betrayed.
I think I like your perspective better. Um,
Oh, thanks.
I do think, yeah, I mean, I don't know, whatever. I do think that the I don't know. I do think there's something there of like, yeah, like how do you absolve the the immorality that happened, right? But then
Yeah,
again, is it by more immorality, right? Is it by killing another person?
I mean, he does deserve it, right? Like, there's
But
nothing.
yeah, is it moral to kill an immoral person?
Probably.
Yeah,
I
this
I
is
think.
a
Well, if we want to start talking about the death penalty, I
yeah,
think if in a perfect world, if you could know for 100% fact that like someone
right.
killed another person, and you killed them, that's like, you kind of get what you get. I don't have any sympathy for that. Kind of the problem I have with the death penalty is that like you end up killing innocent people inevitably
Right. Oh
because
yeah.
you can never really know things 100%. So it's not really not the negative outweighs any perceived positive of it. But
Yeah.
um but
So
yeah,
you're
I
saying,
don't
yeah. So you're saying in this world, it's definitive. This guy is in the
I mean,
moral
yeah,
wrong.
he admits it to him.
So it makes sense. It's the moral thing to do to eliminate that moral wrong and to absolve the world of that immorality and wash it into the river.
It's not even that. It's just you
It sounds
deserve
like
it.
you're saying I'm right. It
Well,
sounds like
yeah,
you're saying that my initial idea was actually better than yours.
I've ne you
Closed.
you've never been right. But that's uh I'm just saying the guy deserved it. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. Yeah,
No,
I
no, no,
think
I know.
I definitely see that. I think that there's pretty good merit probably to both those arguments, and I think it's an interesting like idea of like, yeah, why does he shoot him at the end? I mean, there's no explanation. There's no real need to, right? I mean, what do you guys think? I don't know. We both
Yeah.
have in a way I still do kind of like your idea better than mine, but just to be stubborn, I'm sticking with it. So vote, vote for Ryan or Shane, or make your own, a write-in vote.
Yeah, vote for Bernie and third write in for Bernie Sanders, please. Um,
Yeah, if anyone comments on our podcast here, Bernie Sanders, that'd be hilarious.
that would be awesome. We love Bernie Sanders. If only Bernie would have won. Fuck Hillary Clinton, fuck the DNC, and fuck Donald Trump and all those fucking scumbags. Goddamn evil fucks.
You know, it's crazy too. We'd pretty much have to go back 10 years.
Yeah.
We're old.
Yeah, kind of crazy that was all 10 years ago.
Anyways,
Imagine how much better the world would be if Bernie was the president. It'd probably be really awesome. A lot better than it is right now anyway. Um
we are now
back
migrating. Um,
back to the movie.
back to the movie.
This main character, maybe the
Mm.
coolest main character of all time.
Whoa.
Nonplussed by anything. Doesn't give a fuck. But also, he is a complete loser. He has no family, no his only friend is a complete scumbag. He lives with his cat alone in almost squalor. Um he does have quite a nice apartment, I will say. Like that must have cost a pretty penny. But
It's
it's
weird
not
you're talking
exact
about me like this. I'm right here.
it is like kind of a night kind of a cool apartment. I don't know what's up with that. He has nice neighbors, so that's good. But like in my point is just that in like the view of society, he's like a loser and an outcast and kind of like a burnout, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't have any traditional success in life, the traditional like markers of success.
Right.
Um, but what he does have is like his personality and his words and the way he approaches life and like when he's in jail, even there's a moment I forget. I don't think I wrote down the exact quote, but it was like, "All right, you're free to go," and he's like, I was always free," or something like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's just that mentality, and I feel like that's a very '70s thing of like, uh, that type of attitude toward things, I guess. But also like he doesn't have that type of institutional power or anything like that, but he kind of like maintains it in his words and being a smart ass. Like he can't actually do anything to the police, but he can be a smart ass and make fun of them, and that gives him a little bit of power back. You know what I mean?
Right. Totally.
But anyway, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to say about that, but I thought that's kind of interesting and maybe part of the appeal of the character.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see that this is a fantastic main character. Best of coolest of all time is, I don't know. That's a tough. I'd have to think more on that, but
To me personally,
yeah, yeah,
because some people like Han Solo. I don't like Han Solo. I think Han Solo is kind of an asshole, but a lot of people think he's really cool. Or like Indiana Jones, also not as cool as Philip Marlowe. But there's an element of like realism to it, like Han Solo or Indiana Jones. It's completely detached from reality. It's like a fantasy character. Whereas Philip Marlowe feels like he could be like a real guy
yeah,
in this movie in particular.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. He also feels he does feel kind of like an old soul in the movie, right?
Hmm.
He's like the only person in the movie that's smoking, pretty much, and he's smoking the whole time.
Oh
He
yeah, a lot.
and yeah, right, and like um, so I don't know, maybe it's really just that, I don't know, but like in a way, he kind of feels dated in the movie, you know,
Yeah,
um, which I guess makes
he's
sense, right? It's supposed to be like a noir, and yeah, oh shit,
he's a noir character in the 70s. He's an out of place character. Yeah, right.
whoa, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
it's awesome.
oh shoot, I
Yeah,
I should
and
write that on my notes here.
and even the even the like the hoods and Marty Augustine, they also kind of are a little out of place and like out of time, I think, when they see the nude, like whatever, topless hippie chicks next door. They're like taken aback by it and like in shock. They're like, what the hell's going on? Like what? But it's the 70s. They're sort of these classic noir characters transplanted into the 70s, and they're kind of taken aback by this, like, sexual liberation and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So I think that is a big, yeah, the mixing the, you know, the noir with the 70s is kind of the magical mix of the movie.
that's genius. When earlier I said something like he's a fish out of water, but I meant to say something about him not being able to see, and I mixed up my analogies. But actually, that was perfect. He's a fish out of water,
Yeah,
dude. Because I meant to say something along the lines of he's feeling in the dark or whatever, like
yeah. You
about the whole uh the ending thing. But yeah, shoot, dude,
can't see through the
cool,
smoke is what you were thinking.
dude.
But he is fish out of water. And like there's that other scene where he is at the, can't remember if it's at the party at the Wade's house or if it's just him being there another time. And Roger tells him like, "Hey, take off that tie and have a drink with me and whatever." And he's like, "I'll have a drink, but I won't take off my tie."
Yeah,
Like he keeps the tie on for some reason. Like, and
yeah,
I think also when he says like business hasn't been so hot recently, like that's also a reference to being in the 70s rather than in like the 40s, where it seemed like being a private detective, you were always just the busiest job ever, apparently.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting.
But also,
Um,
one thing I wanted to say: the Wade's house, incredible.
oh my god.
One of the nicest. I mean, maybe I'm just hyperbolizing today. One of the nicest houses in movies. If I could pick a house in a movie to live at, and that could just be my house, that is like an S tier choice.
Yeah, that would be pretty. I mean, it is a really nice house.
It's awesome.
Definitely
They're
S
on
tier
the beach.
choice. Our next tier list could be movies from houses from movies that we want
Ooh,
to live in.
top five. We
Uh,
each pick a top five. Top five movie houses we'd want to live in. I fuck with that. Let's do it. Write it down. Write it down.
I'm writing it.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say that house is incredible. Just the location. You're on the beach. Any house on the beach like that, amazing.
Yeah, movie
There's
houses
also
too.
at that house, there's that really awesome shot when the Wades are in the house arguing, and the shot is through the glass, and you can see the reflection of Marlowe by the water, uh, like in the reflection of the glass, and you can see them. So it sort
Yeah,
of has that superimposition like effect. That's another really cool shot in the movie.
yeah, yeah. It's I mean, again, a well shot movie, and uh, anyway, sorry, yeah, the cinematographer and Altman, what's Zygmunt, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Vilmos
Vilmos.
Zsigmond.
Um, their collaborations, it's this, Images, and a few others, right? Or maybe two more or one more. And I'm
McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
that's the other one.
Yeah,
I'll have to watch that one because this and Images were phenomenal. The cinematography was awesome, and it helps the story quite a lot, and it feels metaphorically impactful at a lot of times. There's one shot in Images where it's like, it's she's like going to the house, but they stop at this cliff, and it's a shot of her at this cliff, but then she's looking down and she sees somebody getting out of a car at the house, and it's her. And then
yeah,
it zooms in, and then all of a sudden, it's her. Like you're following her at the house now, but she was just kind of stunned by seeing herself. And it's like this really kind of reality bending, weird stuff. But the cinematography in that movie was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
too.
that movie's awesome. I definitely need to rewatch Images soon. For sure.
Hell yeah. Anyways, do you have much more for this one, or should we do our ratings pretty soon?
I got maybe a couple other things I
Go
want to
for it. Go
say.
for it.
One thing, Dr. Veringer. This depiction of a doctor. This guy's a fucking scumbag, a little weasel. I hate him. I hate this guy. And I am wondering, like, is this a thing like Hollywood doctors? Because it made me think of Kanye West. Oh, he used to be a legend, and now how the mighty have fallen into being a complete imbecile. But also, he has this dentist who I think like travels with him or something like that. And he basically just gives him like nitrous oxide so he can like become brain damaged, even worse than he already is. But like I feel like this is a thing in Hollywood where there are
Right.
these like doctors or therapists or dentists or like people who are like these like evil lurches who are gonna do anything for like money and power and take advantage of people and stuff like that. And I wonder if this was like, I'll get like, obviously Altman is pretty anti-establishment and uh, I felt like this character maybe could have come out of reality of like doctors that are like this, like predatory doctors trying to take advantage of people and stuff like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely saw this character as like kind of like I think everybody in this movie is pretty much a, a bad person to another person in this movie. Like there's everything in this movie is about somebody taking advantage of somebody else, right? It's
Mhm.
even in the whole movie, right? It's Terry taking advantage of Marlo. It's uh Roger and his wife kind of both there's like a back and forth of
They're both pretty bad to each other.
right. And Marty and obviously he just beats his girlfriend, right? And there's so I think like I was kind of envisioning this as like kind of this kind of maybe cynical, almost like perspective on relationships of people, right? That there's every relationship of people is just people trying to get something brutally from somebody else, right? Like all means necessary, right? But I
Yeah.
also, yeah, I think that's a really good point that this is a real thing that happens, right? With Hollywood doctors, right? I mean, isn't this what happened to Michael Jackson? Pretty much, like he was
Yeah, it's
fed prescriptions.
yeah. That's a good point. That's a great example. Yeah. Maybe that is also part of the appeal of the movie of Marlowe is kind of this guy who's just kind of floating in whatever. There's a review on Letterboxd that's like describes Marlowe as a cat in a dog eat dog world.
Ah,
And I think that's like a perfect description of it. I should probably find who that is and like give him like a little credit on it. But
mm,
I think that's just a good description of maybe kind of what you're saying, where everyone is out to get each other in one way
right.
or another. And Marlowe is just this guy who's to trying to get through and you know what I mean, trying to make his way through this, fucked up society. And yeah, you're right. Pretty much everyone in the movie is uh an asshole to one another, except Marlowe, who's kind of just doing his own thing.
Yeah,
But he's also kind of an outcast of society.
right. Yeah, like you say, he's kind of out of place, right?
Yeah,
He's a fish out of water. He's a cat in a dog eat dog world. These are all great. He's you can't see through the smoke, right?
yeah, yeah.
We're just full of these things. I mean, we totally made them all up, but also if you find that guy, we can we can cite
I,
him.
hold on. Give me 2 more minutes. You gotta talk. You gotta talk about something else about the movie.
I got this.
I can't find the guy. There's a review on Letterboxd. It's good. I don't know if it could be like Josh Lewis, maybe. I know it could be his review. I don't know. But now maybe I'm giving credit to the wrong guy. Who knows? That's why I was trying to find it. Anyway.
You know what? Yeah. Well, if we find it, we can throw a comment on there on our podcast letterbox account and just say we tried citing you in our
We can
podcast.
we can just put a one we can just put a 100 emoji.
Yeah.
Like,
There
yeah,
you go.
facts. Uh also uh Sterling Hayden and Elliott Gould, great drunk actors. Hayden obviously huge, big, over the top, but Gould, there's that scene where he's like having the dinner with Eileen and then Roger Wade goes into the ocean and dies. And after that, he's like questioning her and he's like slurring his words in that kind of subtle way that's like, this guy's fucked up. But that's like, I think that scene is like some of the best drunk acting I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's interesting because at the beginning of that scene, I didn't really realize it, and then as he talks more, you're like, oh yeah, he's fucked up. And
Yeah,
there's that kind of interesting. Usually in a movie, it's just like the most over the top, very obvious drunk thing, but that kind of subtle, slowly realizing thing is very real, right? Feels very
yeah,
real.
yes. Also, little thing at the end of the movie, they play Hooray for Hollywood, which is kind of like a weird song to choose for the end credits, right?
Yeah, I just spit take. Um, yeah, that's
Is
crazy. That feels like that must be like satirical, right? That's like this is the antithesis of the movie, right? Like
yeah, right. Ironic song choice. Gotta be. That's the song. That's the song.
I ended up with
All
tea
right.
all over myself. Jesus.
All right. Well, I don't know. I guess I talked enough about The Long Goodbye. I fucking love this movie. It's awesome. It's so rewatchable. The vibe is just great. There's something nice about the vibe where it's very watchable and entertaining, but it's also like relaxing in a way. Obviously, there are like those two big moments of like violence that are kind of shocking at the very end, but then also it's really the bottle, the Coke bottle into the face. That's kind of the most shocking, like, oh, Jesus Christ, like I wasn't expecting that. But besides that, the movie has a very like chill, there's a chill vibe to the movie. But yeah. So very rewatchable. Absolutely love it. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we get into our ratings?
No, that's pretty much everything for me. That was I agree. Very enjoyable movie. But what did you rate it though?
Nice. It's a 5-star banger, man. Have you
Ooh.
heard me? I've been glazing this movie the whole time. Trying to use Zoomer slang.
Yeah. Glaze is that all right, whatever. I'm not gonna
You haven't heard that?
no, no.
Glazing. I was glazing.
Anyways, um I I find
Uh,
this movie very enjoyable as well. I do think that I'd enjoy it even more on a rewatch. I feel kind of similar to how I felt the first time I watched The Big Lebowski, actually, where I enjoyed the movie. I saw that it was a good movie and I enjoyed it the first time, but I kind of was like, I want to watch this again. Although this, I actually even feel maybe more positive leaving right away. I feel like The Big Lebowski, the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, cool. But this one, I did leave like thinking that was something. But I do need I need a rewatch to really digest it more. But
yeah,
I'm throwing a 4 stars in there for this one.
nice.
Lots of fun, lots of fun, and
Nice. Yeah, I think this The Big Lebowski and like Inherent Vice, like all those movies are kind of movies that the first time you watch it, you're a little like it's just off kilter. It's a little weird, so it's hard to get your footing in the movie, but they are really rewarding on rewatch.
yeah, I can definitely see that. Um, but the rating recap here is 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 95% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, 87% audience score, and a 4.2 out of 5 on Letterboxd. That's a hot that's a hot
That's
set of numbers. That's
yeah, I
glazing.
was yep, the internet is glazing like the long goodbye. Good job.
They,
You just decreased your age a little bit. You're
yeah,
becoming a zoomer. What's
me.
another term they use?
Well, I'll tell you
You're
what.
you're a
This
zoomer for
movie,
real?
this
For real,
movie
for real?
cooked.
Ah, yeah, Robert Altman cooked.
It
Nice,
has an
nice.
8.525 out of 10 average. I even threw in the three decimals
Wow.
there for you.
Thank you for the precision.
So yes, so very high. Thank you for the correct terminology. Very high.
All right, get off
All
your
right.
high horse, you fucker.
A very high average. And that makes
Yeah,
total sense. And I think really what drags it down a little bit is the well, I guess
IMDb.
yeah, it's and I think I can kind of understand that, I think, but
Yeah,
maybe
I'm
again, if
kind
you just
of
watch it the one time and you're like, all right, it's good.
yeah, I could see that. It's kind of cool that the letterbox is so high rated. Like 4.2 is extremely high for letterbox. It's kind of like when I didn't know what it was, and when I went whatever before or after I watched the movie. I was like, holy cow, 4.2. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
hey, I'm helping. I'm glazing with the 5 stars. So I'm helping the score.
This is actually what it's like at school. Kids try to teach me terminology they use,
All
and
right.
I
All
get
right,
some of
Unk.
it. Yeah. All
All
right.
right. Show your trap, Unk.
Chat. I know chat.
Yeah,
All right,
chat.
chat.
All right,
Tell us
chat.
what
What do
you
you think?
think, chat. Oh man, we are showing our age here.
Yeah, we've gone
Um,
full Unk status with this episode.
I hate this. A good editor, a respectful editor would cut this out, but I'm not gonna.
No, don't cut it
Um,
out. This is the juice. Come
this
on.
this gives me the ick.
Oh yeah. That,
Is
I feel
that
like
that's
ick is a
old? Yeah,
I
that's
feel like
old.
ick is a little old, yeah.
Ah,
I feel like the
God.
Zoomers are past the ick, which is good. I feel like the ick was bad for society.
Have you seen the Italian brain rot stuff?
Absolutely not. I don't know what the hell
Uh,
you're talking about.
don't look that up.
All right. Oh, okay. Are you talking about Giallo movies?
That's messed up. You're gonna get hate for
I just had
that.
to pick something. I had to pick something.
You're gonna hate for that on Letterboxd, I swear.
That's okay. They're good ones. I haven't seen that many. That's not. I wasn't actually an anti-Giallo comment. It was the first Italian thing I could think of, besides what pasta.
Oh man. All right. All right, we're moving on.
What? What? It's the first. What am I gonna say? The Colosseum. The Colosseum is a banger.
Italian brain rot. I don't know if it even has to do with it with Italy. I don't know, but it's like after this, you got to look up what is it called? Cappuccina ballerina.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I thought Italian Braemrot was the Jersey Shore. Anyway,
Ah, that's good. That was a
uh,
good one. That I liked that.
thank you. I had to go Italian American.
But no, I'm gonna send you a picture of that later because this is what
Okay.
happens to me at school. My kids
All
are
right.
like, "Hey, have you seen this thing yet?" And then they show me. I'm like, "That is horrendous. Please stop."
Okay.
Anyways, it's time to move on.
Time to move on. So glad we watched The Long Goodbye. I love that movie. Great to rewatch. Now we're at the end of the episode. We're going to take a new topic from our category cup for next full episode. Before this episode comes out, we're going to have another half episode where we talk about 28 days later and 28 weeks later. So that'll be our episode next week. I think it'll be 20.5 because this is episode 20. And then for episode 21, I'm going to pick a topic. If you're on the YouTube, you can see I have a cup in my hand. I'm reaching into the cup. I'm looking down. I can't see.
If we
What?
get Giallo, that would be hilarious.
That would be funny if we got Giallo. Or if we got Jersey Shore, which I put in here.
Did you really?
No.
I was like, what the hell?
Oh, we got actually very related to this episode, 1970s,
Ooh, that's
which
hot.
is this is our first just a decade.
That's pretty awesome.
We
We were
have
just talking about that.
we were just talking about like we have a bunch of we have whatever, like 1920s to 2020s. We have all in here and we haven't gotten any of them yet until now. So cool. I feel like just coincidentally or whatever, we have like little eras in the show where like
Yeah.
we had our like found footage and zombies and like early 2000s horror.
Yeah.
And then now we're getting into some 70s stuff.
Yeah. We had a little vampire era. We had a what other eras did we have? We had one more, but that's all right.
I don't know.
What am
I
I
think we're
thinking?
entering Unk era because it's 70s.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I only know like 3 or 4, so I have to keep reusing the same ones. And I kind of already forgot what was the first. Oh, Glaze. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I will say the 70s, maybe my favorite decade for all movies. So I'll be glazing the 70s next episode. I'll tell you that much.
The if anyone else out there wants to stop listening at this point, I understand. And I will not be too upset. But in
It's
the in the review or whatever, or what, like, tell me why. Because if you can say that this is because of Shane's unk phase, I will I'll be able to use that as evidence to no longer let Shane say these words.
I don't know what you're talking about. The
Anyways,
fact that I'm saying Unk makes me not Unk.
I'm gonna
More.
go on a nice easy watch and pick Wes Craven's debut, The Last House on the Left.
Oh
Not
no!
really.
Are you
Not
real?
really.
Oh
No.
Jesus Christ! At my heart. Oh man! I was like,
No.
that's a movie I've never watched for a good reason,
I
probably.
might actually pick Suspiria though. That I mean, hey, you
Oh,
mentioned
I
Giallo.
did mention
I could
Giallo.
throw it in there.
Have you seen Suspiria?
Nope, I have
Okay.
not. And I
I
do want to watch more Argento. So,
okay. I didn't like Suspiria that much, but that's just me.
or I could do Demon Pond. I've been wanting to watch Demon Pond,
Oh, I've
and
also wanted to watch that. I've never seen it.
I have the Criterion, and I've been wanting to watch it. So that could be,
Oh, you got the Criterion Blu-ray of it?
yeah,
Wow. It has like a bat that cover is awesome.
yeah. That's why I got it. And I had just watched the Bloodthirsty trilogy, and I was on like this. I was like Japanese '70s horror kick, and I was like, I gotta watch more of it. And then I bought it and didn't watch it. But
There you go. That's the way it goes sometimes. Hmm. I don't know what to pick. I mean, at first I was like, well, I'll just pick one of my favorite movies from the 70s. But I'm also like, this could be an opportunity to watch a new movie that I've never seen before.
I also, it's funny, my highest rated decade on Letterboxd is also the '70s. So this is a pretty awesome
It's
pick.
it's not my highest rated, I don't think, on
No,
Letterboxd though. I think it's like 60s is the highest rated. But I think it's because I'll watch more just random movies from the 70s.
yeah.
So it probably gets like a little bit weeded down. Hmm. I think I gotta just pick like one of the best. But we've already covered Eraserhead, House, and What's Up, Doc, which those are definitely three of my favorite, and The Long Goodbye. So there goes four of my favorite movies from the 70s. Other options, Amarcord, the Fellini movie, incredible movie. Annie Hall is great, but I'm not going to pick a Woody Allen movie. The Conversation's pretty awesome. Chinatown, Roman Polanski movie, probably don't want to pick that. We already talked Kubrick with The Clockwork Orange. I don't know. Probably might leave that off. Taxi Driver, Alien, those could be good picks. A lot of good options.
You know, I didn't mention at the top of the show, but I did just rewatch Taxi Driver like last week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that movie's awesome.
Oh yeah, incredible. Masterpiece. But I might pick maybe the weirdest movie to be featured on the show yet.
We did watch Eraserhead.
This movie is up there with Eraserhead. The Holy Mountain. Alejandro Jodorowsky,
Okay.
The Holy Mountain. I think I'm gonna pick it.
Is this gonna be weird if I pick? Oh, okay, okay.
If you pick
This will
Demon
be
Pond,
weird. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, they have nothing to do with each other probably, but that's okay.
that's the
Nothing wrong with
weird thing
that.
about the decade genres, huh? Is
They can, yeah. I mean, I could pick Star. We could do Star Wars and Demon Pond, which would be like crazy.
I could do Solaris, but
Yeah, Solaris is pretty awesome, but that doesn't necessarily have any. It's not
nothing.
really similar to the Holy Mountain at all. Holy Mountain is more similar to, I'd say, Eraserhead or House than anything else, maybe. So I'm probably gonna go with the Holy Mountain.
This will be a fun episode.
Yeah, I feel like if I want to, is it easily accessible for you,
I was
the Holy
just looking
Mountain?
that up.
Because I have the Blu-ray, but I don't know if you have easy access to it.
It's rentable.
Cool. It's not streaming anywhere.
It doesn't look like it.
Damn.
I wonder if it's the Internet Archive. Yep, it's on the Web Archive.
Damn.
There we go.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean,
Is Demon Pond accessible for you? Is a good question
I
too.
think it's on the Criterion channel, but I'll double check.
Excellent. That makes sense.
Let's double check. Yep, it's on the Criterion channel.
Hell yeah,
So
this is gonna be a crazy episode. Demon Pond,
yeah,
yeah, all right, and the Holy
let me.
Mountain.
Yeah, I think I gotta go with it. It's fucking crazy, and like I don't know that it really fits that many like
Yeah,
other episodes. You know what I mean? Like if we did, I think Ridley Scott is in there, so Alien, I could do that. You know,
right,
or
right.
um, The Enigma of Caspar Hauser. I think Werner Herzog is in there. So like, got a lot of options.
Aw- awesome. Let's
If
do
we
it.
get if we get Scorsese, Taxi Driver will probably be my pick, or Raging Bull. So I feel, or Robert De Niro might even be a topic too.
Yeah, there's plenty of options to pull some of these.
You
So
know, I I will say Days of Heaven, pretty awesome movie. Nah, we're sticking with the Holy Mountain.
all right,
Let's do
Demon
it.
Pond and the Holy Mountain. Deep
The
Demon.
Holy Demon Pond.
Whoa,
The Holy Demon Pond.
that's sick.
That's kind of sick. That could be a well, the pond isn't very metal. The
Yeah.
Holy Demon Mountain. Now that is a metal album.
The Holy Demon Mountain.
Or just Holy Demon Mountain.
Holy Demon Mountain. Holy Demon Mountain Pond. Holy Demon
The
Pond Mountain.
Holy Mountain Pond.
Holy the Mountain Pond.
The Demon Mountain.
The Mountain
The
Pond.
Holy. Oh, wait. No, never mind. This is dumb.
Yeah.
I think the Holy Demon Pond makes sense.
Yeah.
Unless we do the Holy Demountain Pond.
Yeah. 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 I like that. It's like French, like the mountain.
Yeah, the Holy Demountain Pond. Okay, I like
I
that.
don't know French.
That would be like deep apostrophe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is deep.
We could stylize it like that though.
Eh,
It wouldn't really make any sense. It has no reason to do that.
we could though.
But we
Free
can do whatever
country.
we want.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want. All right,
All
cool. Well,
right.
those
All
are
right.
two banger choices. Never
That's
seen
fair.
Demon Pond, so that's exciting.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And honestly, anytime I can be like, "Hey, you have to watch the Holy Mountain," that sounds fucking awesome.
that's awesome. I'm excited. Hopefully, y'all will be following along, which means you have an assignment this week, which is watching. Well, this week, I guess you got to watch 28 Days at 28 Weeks Later if you want to catch up on those. But also, you got to watch The Holy Mountain and you've got to watch Demon Pond so you can keep up with our full episodes. That will be a crazy ride. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I guess that's that.
Yeah. In the meantime,
Don't forget to mind your movies.